From Relay FM, this is Connected, episode 480. Wow, that's a lot of episodes. Today's show is brought to you by our sponsors, Squarespace, ZocDoc, and NetSuite. I'm one of your hosts, Federico and it's my pleasure to introduce, as always, Mr. Stephen Hackett. Hello, Stephen.
Hello, Federico. How are you?
Hi. Hello. How are you?
I am good, and I'm very pleased to introduce our friend, Mr. John Voorhees.
Hey guys, how you doing? It's good to be here, and I'd been hoping that I'd get a little pre-holiday season time to do a little reconnaissance for the Triple J on
what?
Connected.
I don't know what those words don't mean anything to me.
No, that was not the purpose of this invitation. No, what?
John's just spouting nonsense.
I'm here. I'm here to report back to my fellow Jays.
To your fellow Jays. Wow. Okay, so we just invited a spy to do a show with us. Excellent.
But he's here on our terms, so we're playing him, is what I'm saying.
Oh, wow.
Oh, okay. So, congratulations, John. You just played yourself.
I do that. I do that a lot, it turns out. Federico can attest to that, I think.
I see an interesting item in follow-up, Stephen.
Yes, Mike is gone, and as tradition, we like to let our fellow co-hosts know they were missed. And this came from BG in the members' Discord. BG recommended, with Mike gone, we should send him photos of us wearing tiny head shirts.
Yes.
Amen. Go do it.
Yes, do it.
Yeah, do it. I got to go dig mine out. I've got it somewhere.
And pay attention. Photos of us wearing our tiny head shirt. It's not like you can just open your drawer, take a picture of the shirt, and send it to Mike. You gotta wear it.
No, that's not satisfactory. You got to really go all in on this.
You gotta wear it. Now, can you get creative with the picture? Be my guest. Yeah, do whatever you want, as long as it's a good picture. Send it to Mike on
You always
Mastodon.
like to make it a little weird, don't you, Federico? You always to give people ideas of doing it.
I just need to clarify.
No, it got weird last week. It got real weird last week because y'all sent people my way with the only direction of send him something foot related.
Yeah. I mean, and that was not my fault.
I got gifts. Someone emailed me a link to like the Podiatrist Board of America or something. It's like it went on and on. But I am back. So I did have surgery on my foot 2 weeks ago today, but recovery is going great, and I'm happy to be back with the two of you. So, and to have a little bowl of the screws that used to be in my foot. They got put in 2020, then they had to come out. The bone's all healed, so everything's good. And I got to keep my surgical hardware, which is a strange thing to own, but I kind of love that I have it.
Are you going to make something with it? Are you going to build something in your office?
Yeah, why don't you use them? You got to use them.
Maybe they show up in the podcastathon next year. You never know.
Oh, wow. Wow.
You never know. Maybe it's like, you're looking through a bucket of something. You got to find the foot screw. Who knows? Who knows what we'll come up with? I made a purchase based on last week's show.
Okay.
I picked up the Mophie 3-in-1 travel charger that y'all have been talking about.
Yeah. I checked it out. It looks really cool.
It's awesome. So it's pricey, but it comes in this little carrying case and it folds over on itself. It comes with the USB-C cable and charger, which is nice. It's just one cable. You get a spot for your AirPods case. You get a spot for your phone and a spot for your Apple Watch. It all folds over. And the little carrying case it comes in, the zipper's closed, and there's room for the charger and the 3-in-1 kind of fold out thing and the cable. Well, there's also a little extra room in there. And so you could like put your AirPods case or, maybe you have another random cable you need to put in there.
Yeah. Or your foot screws. You could put your foot screws in there.
You could put your foot screws in there, whatever you may need. It's pretty great. And yeah, I mean, it's a little, I think it's like $150 or something. But if you're looking for a nice travel charger, something that this folds down to be really compact. And I just have it basically in the bottom of my backpack now, and that's where it's going to live. And I'm pleased with it. I think if you're looking for something like this is a really good option.
Does it connect with a USB-C cable that you could connect to a battery? Because honestly, I don't buy things that don't connect to batteries anymore.
Yeah, it's just a regular like USB-C
All right.
on each end. So
into a USB-C into a brick then.
yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, you could have it plugged into a battery. I'm sure it'd be fine. I think the charger is 60 watts. So you need a battery to be able to push some power, but I think a big battery pack would be totally fine for that. Anything that did USB-C power delivery definitely could do it.
Yeah, this looks like a really good product. I mean, it was a little bigger than I expected just looking at the pictures because they show it in someone's hand. But given that it charges 3 things, I guess it has to be it has to be able to spread out. So it's nice.
Yeah, what I like about it is that it does fold down. So yeah, it's a little big, like when you have it like on your your hotel nightstand or whatever. I guess I've only used it at home, haven't gone anywhere, but it folding down the way that it does, it really doesn't take up much space in your bag. Some of these that don't fold down as nicely, or if you did like what I've always done, which is like a multi USB-C charger and a bunch of cables Velcro together, this is way nicer because you can just pick it up and know you have everything. There's not loose cables running around your bag. It's I've been very happy with it. Maybe if I eventually travel with it, I got some travel coming up in January. Maybe I can report back. Speaking of USB-C, are y'all ready for this? Mm-hmm. As of like an hour ago, Apple is now selling the USB-C AirPods Pro case.
That's breaking news right there.
Yeah, right there.
It is breaking news. This was something that we were hoping for when they moved to USB-C. They didn't have this at launch, and I think some people upgraded to USB-C, new AirPods just for the charger. I'm going to order one of these as soon as we're done with the show because I would like to be all USB-C. It's $100. I don't remember how much the wireless charging case was the first time they did this. I think it was less than $100.
I think it was less. I think it was more like 80 or something like that, if I remember
AirPods
right.
Pro wireless case. Let's see. $79 for the old one. So it is a little bit more, but if you want to go all USB-C and that's worth $100 to you, then you now have an option. It's definitely cheaper than upgrading AirPods, that's for sure. We heard back from listener Jason. Federico, do you want to read this?
Okay, so listener Jason, you may remember this whole saga that we've been following for the past few weeks. Jason, as you recall, had to fetch an AirPod from a pool using a net. Right. And last episode, we were wondering if Jason also had to sort of go into the pool to scoop out the AirPod. And Jason wrote back saying, "No, I did not get into the pool. Pool nets for cleaning leaves usually have a long pole on the end, maybe 8-9 feet, I'm not sure, which allows you to get items out of the deep end and from the surface of the middle of the pool. I had that with me, which allowed me to scoop it out without getting in the pool, but as I wrote, it was hard to see and hard to get the AirPod to go into the net." So Jason had all the equipment he needed, but it took Jason a while to scoop out the AirPod because of the leaves, because of the water, because, he was using this net, and I guess it's hard to control when you're trying to scoop out a very small AirPod from a body of water. So thank you, Jason. This story is now concluded. I don't know why we are still talking about this. I guess it's because we've been asking the questions over and over every single week. And I'm very happy to announce that I am now out of questions for Jason. I'm done. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Jason, for following up. Yeah, I guess you're 8 or 9 feet away. And, like water does that thing where like it kind of messes with your vision, right? Like it's kind of hard to tell.
True.
Because like the light refracts in the water, I guess, or whatever. I don't remember physical science in 8th grade very well. So I could see this being difficult. And I think last time Jason said that there were like leaves in the pool. So you're kind of trying to find it. So I could see how this would take a few minutes. I believe him. I think this is what happened. So thank you, Jason.
Yeah. Thank you, Jason.
I think this has been a good lesson for listeners that, you never know when you write into Connected, when you might end up writing a dissertation about retrieving things from a pool.
It's true.
And also, if you have a pool and you gotta clean it every once in a while, make sure you get these pool nets that have a long pole at the end that are 8 or 9 feet long. Jason is not sure. So get one of these, Get
one of those and jam your AirPods into your ears really well.
Mm-hmm.
We also have some very important anonymous feedback. An anonymous listener wrote in asking, "What's with the humming? during the grading of the Rickies. Did I miss something? As the producer of this program, Stephen, can you please explain?
Yes. So we use Zoom to have our calls, and Zoom by default does some noise cancellation, and you can turn that off, but I actually find it to be kind of a useful thing. I just also forget to turn it off. But the problem was when I would ring the bell when someone scores a Ricky point, that sometimes that would get canceled out by Zoom. And so if we hum like this, then Zoom, the noise cancellation won't cut the bell, so y'all can hear me awarding the point. We started doing that one time, and now it's just a thing that we do. Probably even when we do a live show next time with Ricky's, we'll probably hum while we score.
Yeah, and the fact that we harmonize when we do it, it's just because we gotta act stupid when we do things. It's not really necessary to harmonize, but we do it regardless.
It makes it nicer.
It makes it nice instead of just being, that's boring.
Listener Leo did the thing. So we got another photo of a listener.
Yes.
At Federico's Christmas trees in Utah.
Yes. Thank you, Leo, for taking the time to go to Federico's Christmas trees. And I gotta say, Leo noted, I'm happy to say that the Connected Pilgrimage site is conveniently located in my home state with trees of all sizes and a knowledgeable, friendly staff. I plan to visit Federico's for all my future Christmas tree needs. Now, this is not a paid endorsement, I guess. I
didn't take any money.
We didn't take any money. I don't know if Leo took any money from Federico's Christmas trees, but hey, that's a pretty solid recommendation. So thank you, Leo, for being the second person this year to take the time to do the Connected Pilgrimage.
It's great. I need to put one particular listener on blast now. So our friend Quinn Nelson, Snazzy Labs. On Mastodon had a promised something. I'm gonna go, right? Quinn lives in Utah. He had like a map up. I think it was like a 40-minute drive or something. He's like, should I do it? We haven't heard from Quinn that he did it, and I'm just saying, Christmas is pretty soon. What's up with that?
What's up with that? Is all fancy with his electric car and everything.
But he publishes like one video a month. He's got plenty of free time. Come on.
He does. Get up in his comments over on YouTube.
What? You don't have cameras, Quinn, to record send us evidence? I mean, come on.
Yeah. It's disappointing.
So we are very disappointed. Very disappointed. But thank you, Leo. Yeah. I'll subscribe to your YouTube instead. Stephen, you published an iPhone review.
I did in December.
Yes.
This started as I'm not going to have time to write this in September because St. Jude and the fundraiser and everything. Yeah. But I kind of gotten into this habit now. I've done this a few times, reviewing a phone or something else like months after it comes out. And I think that's actually, for me at least, better. I think I need some time to think about things. So I worked on this over the course of a week or so. I got it published last week, looking at my iPhone 15 Pro Max. And you know what? It's a pretty dang good phone. And I sort of hinged this review on this idea of, okay, some iPhones are like in the Hall of Fame, like the iPhone 4, right? Beautiful design, retina display. The iPhone 10, right? Totally changed how we use the iPhone, brought OLED, brought Face ID. Where does this phone fit into that? Is it like one of those, or is it a phone like the iPhone, 7 or the iPhone 8? Something that's sort of, it was a good phone, but not necessarily one that we're going to remember, as a highlight over the years. They can't all be home runs. And I think this one is closer to the Hall of Fame. It's got USB-C. The new materials are really nice. The camera, like the 5x zoom, really is next level. It really lets you do things you couldn't do before with an iPhone. And so that was sort of my through line on this review. And if you haven't read it, it's in the show notes. I would love for you to go check it out. I think you'll enjoy it.
It's a very, very good story. I appreciated how you. So I liked the perspective of like, hey, let's check in after a few months. Here's a few things that I can confirm have been very nice, like USB-C, or when you mentioned like your use of the dynamic island. It's a different type of review than what you may see under embargo in September. And I think there's enough room for both style of reviews.
Definitely.
Like, it's useful to have a review under embargo that tells you the details right away. And it's useful to have this sort of like follow-up story a few months later. So well done. Thank you for taking the time to publish this, Stephen.
Thanks. And I was very pleased with my headline. I know you guys are the same way. Sometimes, like, when you're working on something, the headline comes first, and greatness thicker than titanium is like, that's it. Like, so yeah, that review is up. Big news. This is your final call for Relay FM's annual membership sale. If you go to giverelay.com, you can get 20% off any annual plan to a bunch of our shows. I would recommend Connected Pro, which is a longer ad-free version of the show each and every week. And the way that we do it here on Connected, we do sort of a pro topic at the beginning of the show before the music. This week we talked about The Verge's coverage of Twitter and The Rock being in a Siri ad, and sort of our biggest moments on Twitter over the years. Kind of a nice way, I think, to sort of close that chapter in our lives. Like, I really feel here at the end of 2023, like, I'm okay with Twitter being gone, for me at least.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
You get no ads, which is cool. And then we pick titles at the end of the episode. And all that's great, but you also get access to Crossover, which is a podcast feed for all Relay FM members. Mike and I do a show in that feed each month called Backstage. And then once a month, Kathy Campbell, our community manager, will interview somebody on the network with questions harvested from the Discord, which is another perk of Relay FM membership. So lots of really cool stuff. And with this discount, it's $40 a year. So giverelay.com. You have until December 15th to take advantage of this. So this is your final warning. Go forth and join is what I say. This episode of Connected is brought to you by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform for building your brand and growing your business online. You can stand out with a beautiful website, engage with your audience, and sell anything, products, services, and even the content you create. Squarespace has everything you need all in one place. Say that you were to open a Christmas tree lot and you were going to be selling Christmas trees during the holiday. Think about the things you may need. Well, obviously you want a design that works really well on desktop, but also mobile, right? Because people may be looking up information about you on the way. So you want like a nice looking map, an easy, accessible phone number, and you want all that to look really good. Well, with the Fluid Engine, Squarespace's next generation website design system, you can build an amazing website that looks great on any device. You can customize every detail. They have this really cool drag and drop technology to move things around. But then say you want to send out email campaigns. You're just selling Christmas trees right now, but maybe you're going to do something in the spring and you want to be able to get in touch with your customers. Well, with Squarespace email campaigns, all your design work goes out in those emails, and all the built-in analytics that you can use to see how your website is doing, they also are tied in to the email campaigns. And those analytics are really easy to use. It's easy to understand where people are coming from, what pages are doing well. I love building on Squarespace because all this stuff and so much more is just built in. You're not kind of bandaging a bunch of things together and hoping it all works. Squarespace has everything you need in one place. To start your free trial, go to squarespace.com/connected. And when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/connected and use the code CONNECTED. That's going to get you 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain name. Once again, that code is CONNECTED and the URL squarespace.com/connected for 10% off your first purchase. Our thanks to Squarespace for their support of the show and Relay FM.
We have some real-time follow-up, Stephen.
Okay.
I just opened Mastodon. Quinn Nelson posting at us, to me, you, and John, saying, I will not tolerate this slander.
How do we know this is really him?
I mean, see, clearly Quinn is,
there's no beard on this man in the picture. I think he's an impersonator, like Federico.
There's a little bit of a beard.
Also some other, on the top, while we're on the topic of Mastodon, as of a few minutes ago, Mark Zuckerberg tweeted, well, I guess posted. I'm still saying tweeted. I'm sorry, posted. Starting a test where posts from Threads accounts will be available on Mastodon and other services that use the ActivityPub protocol. Making Threads interoperable will give people more choice over how they interact and will help content reach more people. I'm pretty optimistic about this. They're doing it. They're doing the thing. They are
Nice.
federating the Threads. And I will also get Threads tomorrow, guys.
Yes.
I wonder if it'll become available for me at midnight in Europe. Let's see. If I open Instagram and type ticket in the search box, I should get the fancy teaser page. Let's see. Yeah, I'll get it at... No,
probably midnight Pacific US time, I bet.
I'm getting it in 16 hours, it says.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not at my local midnight.
I do have questions. Like, once they federate Threads, like those of us who have been on both, are we gonna have to like pick a account that's gonna be the main one, right? So I have
it's going to be.
I have ISMH at eworld.social on Mastodon, and I'm ISMH86 at Threads. And I honestly would want one account, so like one timeline to read. But how do I, like, that's just going to be a question. Like, do you basically abandon one of them and just hope the stuff all shows up where it's supposed to? Like, I don't think I understand how that's going to work.
I think I'm going to be split forever at this point. I think it's very different groups of people. And I don't know. I'm kind of used to tech Mastodon versus... I don't know, everything else Threads. And I think that unfortunately with two accounts that may just kind of have to remain that way.
I guess if you don't want to use Threads, but you still want to follow and sort of keep up with what people you think are interesting are saying on Threads, it's nice because now it's effectively like RSS. You can subscribe to those people while continuing to use Mastodon, right? So you can use Mastodon and follow people from Threads. But in our case, I think all the three of us, we all want to use both services, right? We want to have, and I think I'm just going to keep them separate. I'm going to have my Mastodon audience and I'm going to have my Threads audience.
I think I will too.
Yeah, that's probably the way to go. Really, I just want to use Ivory for all of it, right? I mean, and Zach points out in the Discord that and I agree, the algorithm in Threads is actually pretty good. And it has surfaced a lot of interesting stuff for me and people that I want to follow that maybe I used to follow on Twitter but have forgotten about or, didn't realize that I hadn't followed them in the new era. So maybe there's still room for that. And I don't know, I just don't think anyone knows, like, will they be able to like push your algorithmic threads through Federation as well? So like I could also see those somehow in Ivory. Like there's a lot of open-ended questions, but I think you're right. I think having them separate, at least for us, makes the most sense.
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, I think also that, it's one of those things where it's just going to take a while to settle down and everybody to figure out how they're doing it. I mean, I think it'll solve your cross-posting problem, Stephen. I mean, people won't feel the need, I don't think, to cross-post as much, which is good because you can do it at one place and everybody can see it if they want. So that's good.
So anyways, it's going to be a real adventure. And this is sooner than I thought it would be. I thought this would be, well into next year.
I still want to point out how wild it is, in my opinion, that the social media landscape has changed enough in the past 12 months that we now like Zuck again.
Yeah.
And we don't have Twitter anymore. I guess if we go back a year ago, maybe we could have predicted this, but if we go back 2 years ago, definitely not.
It's almost a year to the day, Federico, because I was looking back at our story about when we brought the whole MacStories team over to...
Yeah, when was it?
It was the 16th of December. So it was like 3 days ago, from 3 days from now, a year ago. So
wow, that's wild. Okay.
Let's talk about Apple versus Beeper Mini. This story has been one of those things like it works, it doesn't. I don't think we have to retrot at this point like how Beeper Mini works, but basically it was an iMessage app for Android, but also like he who shall not be named had a video on his YouTube channel where he was using on a Linux laptop, which was mind-blowing. Apple turned off some functionality in iMessage that I think also broke like versions of like OS 10 Mountain Lion people who were using really old versions. Now, basically, you have to have an Apple ID. But Beeper Mini does work as we're recording this. They have also made it free. I understand why they wanted to charge for it. Like, they are a company, they need to pay their people. I totally respect that. But it really seemed like you're giving Apple a bunch of leverage by charging for this. And maybe they realized that. And so I believe it's free now. Apple's statement about this was, hey, this is about security. This is not a deal where we're trying to keep people on the iPhone. This company is basically infiltrated our infrastructure in a way that we find to be dangerous. In hindsight, probably not surprising that Apple used security as the hook for their killing off Beeper Mini the first time. That's what they did.
Yeah, they did. It's interesting to me. I mean, I think that there's a legitimate security concern here, but I also do feel like this is also a very commercial decision by Apple. I think those two things can both be simultaneously true, and I don't know, we're in interesting times right now when it comes to legal things and technology, because, we had Google losing to Epic this week, which to me is just wild that Apple beat Epic in their court case, but Epic beat Google in its court case, where Android is the platform where you can sideload. It's like we're in a period where the legal system really isn't set up to deal with technology companies particularly well. And what we have instead, but the reason that's happening is because we don't have, at least in the United States, we don't have legislatures who are willing to actually regulate tech. Now, EU is doing a much better job at it, I think, but at least here in the United States, that's why we end up with a bunch of these crazy lawsuits. And I do feel like this Beeper Mini thing, if it were to go to a court case, that Beeper Mini would get their rear ends handed to them, probably. I mean, there are laws that allow you to reverse engineer things. That's true.
Yeah.
But there's also laws that say it's illegal to access servers without, authorization or doing it properly. So it would be interesting to see that fight go, but I wouldn't want to be on the side of Beeper Mini if I were taking bets.
I mean, there's something to this, John. I'm sure you can speak to this, being a recovering attorney, but
yeah,
there's something to like not willing to pick a fight with Apple just because of their size, right? Say that you firmly believe that you're in the right, and maybe in actuality you are, but Apple effectively has unlimited money and unlimited lawyers. And
you don't want to pick a fight with Apple, believe me.
You don't want to pick a fight with them, right? And I think
right.
I think Apple uses that. I don't think they use it outwardly, but like it's a thing, right? People consider that. And it's not just Apple, all these big tech companies. Yeah, this is wrong. I would like to push back against this legally. But even if I were to win, I wouldn't survive it, right? Or they could drag it out forever and bankrupt me. And that, I think, is like an inherent unfairness built into the justice system that we have in this country. But you're also right that the justice system and honestly, the federal government is not equipped to manage these things. I mean, look no further than some of the legislation that's being talked about around AI, like in the EU and here in the US.
Right.
And it's just very clear that lawmakers don't have an understanding of what they're dealing with. I mean, we're talking about Zuckerberg. It's burned in my brain forever. At one point, I think during in the sort of the aftermath of the presidential election in 2016, Zuckerberg was hauled in front of Congress. And one of the questions was like, how do you make your money? And he said to the senator, like, sir, we run ads. It's like, did the senator not know how Meta made money? And if they didn't, why didn't somebody on their staff prep them better? Like, it is so disheartening because these issues are really important. Like, iMessage on Android, ultimately probably not that important. But some of these other things that are being talked about or being decided, they need to have people's input who are thoughtful and have a deep understanding of what's going on. And I just don't see that. And that is concerning to me.
Yeah, some of that's a generational gap, I think, in the way our government works, which is unfortunate. But hopefully that corrects itself down the line. But yeah, it's there's so many layers of this onion, really, as to what's going on here. And I do hear people say, "Oh, this is this is anti-competition." I don't think that that's quite right, because I don't think iMessage is big enough anywhere to really be considered, a monopoly or an antitrust violation of any kind. Now, is it fair that should Apple do something for its customers that would make their experience better too, by allowing Android users to communicate with them in an encrypted way? I think so, but that's kind of their decision. Obviously, Apple as a company has decided that they're better off with the lock-in that you get with iMessage being on the phone and being the iPhone and being exclusive. They're better off with that than they are interoperating with other platforms. And, until the market, I think, demands more of Apple in terms of its messaging services, that's not likely to change, which I think is too bad. But that's something that, if there were like the political will to decide that messaging services need to interoperate, that could be a solution. But I don't think the courts are probably going to be the route that actually ends up shaking this up in the end.
Can I just say that even though I don't agree with all the decisions taken by regulators in the EU, I am loving the chaotic energy that all of this is bringing. First it was USB-C, and now these antitrust trials for digital app stores. Now there's the gatekeeping and iMessage, and now there's just today. News came out that Spotify is going to get an exemption to be able to redirect people on iOS to their own paying method instead of using in-app purchases. Like the chaos that is happening in the EU, I am loving this. Even though there is a conversation, of course, to be had about just how much should the hand of the government, interfere with the decisions of a corporation.
Right.
I also gotta say that, I don't mind it personally. We got USB-C. Maybe Apple would have done it regardless. Maybe not. And it was great that we now have USB-C everywhere, especially on the iPhone. Spotify will be able to tell people, hey, you can sign up on our website and save money. Great. Maybe eventually I'll be able to have end-to-end encryption and use iMessage to text somebody on WhatsApp. I don't know if that will ever be technically possible, but the EU seems to be asking for some kind of mix of end-to-end encryption and ActivityPub for messaging clients. Will there ever be possible? I don't know. But if they force tech companies to build it, that's going to be pretty sweet.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I do feel like the chaos is good because it does force these companies to think really hard about the decisions that they're making, because really the last thing you really want is for the government or a judge to be running your company, which is essentially what we're talking about. And that, once you go to court, or once you have things in the hands of regulators, you've lost the choice. You've lost the control over your own destiny. And having that kind of chaos in the EU, I think, does help make companies like Apple think twice about what they're doing, just as I think the Epic trial did the same thing for Apple. I mean, they ended up winning that one, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like the market ought to, in more cases than in most cases, I think the market ought to figure this out. Yeah. But I do think that having the government and the court system there as kind of a backstop and to keep companies honest is a useful thing.
Yeah, and until a few years ago, I used to be very opposed to this idea of the European Union telling tech companies, historically US-based tech companies, how they should operate. But I think over time, I've come to understand something, and that is, yes, they are private corporations, and as a private corporation, you should be able to decide the kind of products that you want to sell and the kind of choices that you want to make in your business. But the thing is, smartphones, computers in general, but of course smartphones, have become a commodity. They have become something so essential to everyday life for all kinds of citizens in any country, that it doesn't surprise me anymore that this market gets regulated just as much as, for example, the car market is. If you want to make a car, and sure, you are a private corporation, you're free to make your own decisions and the way you conduct your business. But if you want to make a car, you got to follow some rules. And there's standards that you need to respect. And you may be like, but I want to design my seatbelts in a way that they are thinner and fancier. No, you cannot do that.
Yeah.
Like, you know?
Yeah. Well, safety is one thing, I think, Federico. I'm not sure that messaging like touches on the same kinds of public health and safety issues.
No, but we as a human race, we now use these messaging clients to communicate. They have become an essential part of our social routines and lives, you know? And so it is an inconvenience that that it's so fragmented, I think. And it's the reason why in the EU, for example, as much as possible, we try to have standards. I mean, we have literally the same money in all these countries, you know.
Right.
We have the same currency and we have the same plugs, for example, for power outlets, and we are free to travel wherever we want. I know that it's a tough pill to swallow for a lot of American listeners and readers, but I kind of like it as a European. So that's my 2 cents.
We have some real-time follow-up.
Yeah.
Mike Hurley has texted us a picture of himself wearing the tiny head shirt.
Oh my God. That's not.
Has he?
That's not how it's supposed to work.
He said, I just got a message that suggests to me that wearing this shirt today was a good coincidence.
Huh.
Is
That is
BG
interesting.
spying on Mike? Is BG actually Mike?
Is BG Mike?
Who knows?
Bichael Gurley? BG?
Bichael Gurley.
Well done. Well done, Michael.
This episode of Connected is brought to you by ZocDoc. Confession time. Raise your hand if you've caught yourself listening to so-called health experts on social media. Maybe they say something about your morning drink, or you find yourself wondering if maybe what they're saying is related to your symptoms. Meanwhile, when is the last time you actually went to a, real, actual good doctor? If you have to think about it, it's time to head to ZocDoc. There are thousands of top-rated doctors there. They're all listed with verified patient reviews, so you can find and book a doctor who not only has years of experience and an actual medical degree, 2 things that I think are important, but also gets you and where you're coming from. ZocDoc is a free app where you can find amazing doctors and book appointments online. We're talking about booking appointments with thousands of top-rated, patient-reviewed doctors and specialists. You can filter specifically for ones who take your insurance, are located near you, and treat almost any condition you're searching for. And these doctors have verified reviews from actual real patients, not robots. Robots don't need doctors, so you don't need to pay attention to their reviews. Actual real humans are what you're looking for. The average wait time to see a doctor booked on ZocDoc is between 24 and 48 hours, and you can often get same-day appointments. Once you find the doctor you want, you can book them immediately with just a few taps, so no more waiting awkwardly on hold with a receptionist. I love this service because finding a new doctor, maybe you've moved, maybe you have something new going on, maybe your doctor retired, maybe it's just time for a change. What do? You just Googling around? You need something that's focused on this. So go to ZocDoc.com/connected to download their app for free, then find and book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc, ZocDoc, ZocDoc.com/connected. Our thanks to ZocDoc for their support of the show and Relay FM. We had big software updates this week: iOS, iPadOS, tvOS 17.2, watchOS 10.2, macOS Sonoma 14.2. All this stuff is out after a lengthy beta cycle. Federico, tell us a little bit about what's new in iOS and iPadOS.
There are some changes here and there, especially in, I would say, music, camera, and messages. Messages got the ability to attach stickers as quote-unquote reactions to messages.
Yeah.
That is not the Tapbacks expansion that a lot of folks were anticipating, which Apple may be doing somewhere else. Again, we're going to talk about this in a bit. You can attach a sticker to a message, but this implementation is kind of disappointing in the sense that these stickers, they're not part of the Tapback UI. When you double tap on a message, you will still get the 6 default Tapback reactions. You got a long press a message to attach a sticker, and really that's only the new ability to attach stickers is just a shortcut to do something that you've been able to do for years now, which is manually dragging a sticker on top of a message. Now you have a way to do so without dragging and dropping the sticker yourself. These stickers, if a message bubble is small enough, they start covering the text of the message. You cannot see who sent which sticker in a conversation. Tapbacks may be useful in a group thread. You can see that, for example, Mike sent a heart tapback and Stephen sent a question mark, and you can tell, that Stephen maybe didn't understand the message. Attached stickers don't have attribution, I guess. So it's impossible to tell who sent what. So that's messages. There's also the catch-up arrow, I guess, in messages. If you open a thread and it's got a lot of unread messages, this is a feature that WhatsApp and Telegram, I think, have had for years. There's a small arrow that pops up in the top right corner of the UI. You can tap that and it'll take you to the first unread message. So you can, catch up on all those messages. In music, collaborative playlists have been pushed back to 17.3, which we're going to talk about shortly, but you will still get a couple of new features in 17.2. There's a new default playlist for your favorite songs. Apple rebranded liked, or I guess loved songs to favorite songs in 17.1, and in 17.2 they're doing something that Spotify has had for years, which is a default playlist comprised of all your favorite tracks. Now you can find that in the library of Apple Music. And there's also, and this is actually a pretty cool feature, there's a new focus filter for Apple Music. You can now choose when you want to disable your Apple Music listening history. So this means that when you disable this with the focus filter, what you listen to will not sort of count against the Apple Music algorithm for recommendations, and it will not show up under recently played, and it will not appear as a listening activity to other people on Apple Music. So this is especially handy for, I would say, for parents.
Yes.
When you play a soundtrack from an animated movie for your kids, and the kids wanted to listen to it over and over, and then at the end of the year in your Apple Music replay stats, you see that the Frozen song is at the top of the list, right? This has happened to millions of people, I would say. Now, if you take your time to set this up, there's a way to exclude that activity from sort of polluting your Apple Music history. I saw a bunch of people complaining that this focus filter, which you can enable in settings, you open whatever focus you want to customize, and you add one of these new app filters for music. And it's called Set Use Listening History. But this focus filter does not appear in the driving focus, right? Which I would argue is likely the culprit for a lot of people. You're driving your kids, and kids want to listen to the Frozen soundtrack in the car. But for whatever reason, the driving focus in settings does not have an app filters section. So I have two solutions, though. Okay. Either you create a manual focus mode, and you use shortcuts to activate that focus mode when you get in your car, and that will work, right? You're just creating a custom focus for when you're driving. You will lose, however, with this method, you will lose the default reply for iMessage when you're driving. Or you can, the thing about focus filters, you can configure them in settings, but these focus filters are also available as shortcuts actions. So what you can do is you can keep using the default driving focus that Apple makes, but you can create an automation in Shortcuts that is triggered when the driving focus becomes active, and you use the Use Listening History focus filter as a Shortcuts action inside the Shortcuts app. So you create an automation manually, you can keep using the driving focus that Apple makes, and you can still take advantage of this feature. What else? You can capture spatial video in the camera app. This is a setting. You need to enable it in settings camera formats. It's limited to landscape, 1080p video at 30 frames per second. Not a great resolution, not a great frame rate, but these videos, they take up a ton of storage. 1 minute of spatial video is 130 megabytes. So imagine doing this at 4K. Imagine doing this at 4K 60. That would be like 1 minute is a full gig. But hey, it's better than you can capture these videos now for Christmas. Maybe you're getting together with the kids, with the family, with your parents, with your grandparents. You can capture these spatial videos now, and you won't have to wear a Vision Pro and look like a weirdo doing so. You can just do it with your phone, and you will be able to enjoy these videos later on, maybe in February, maybe in March, on a Vision Pro.
Very nice. Very nice. I have a question for both of you guys about music, which is related to the playlist, the new favorites playlist. We've been waiting for years and years for smart playlists on iOS and iPadOS, and we still don't have it. And I've had a favorites playlist for years that I created on my Mac, and it just syncs over to my iOS devices. I wonder which way this cuts. Does this mean we're unlikely to ever see smart playlists on iOS, or am I reading too much into it? What do you guys think?
I don't know what to think of music as. The thing is, it seems that all the music power user features that I would want to get from music, they never happen. They just never happen. And instead, and I'm going to say something that, well, if it upsets some people, whatever. I think we'll reach the point where, both in terms of operating systems and in terms of streaming services, two things are true. Apple and Google, they copy each other with Android. Apple and Spotify, they copy each other with music streaming. Like, we've reached a point where new features are not really new anymore, by and large. And it seems to me like Apple is only very much focused on catching up with Spotify, in terms of what Spotify has been doing for a few years, such as collaborative playlists or favorite songs. And Spotify is interested in doing what Apple Music does best, which is lyrics. Mm-hmm. So, no, John, I don't think we'll get those power user features that we want, like smart playlists or shortcuts integration.
Well, that's what I was going to say. By extension, shortcuts integration, because we're still dealing with the iTunes search API, which hasn't changed in years and years and years.
and that will be gone at some point. So
you would think so, yeah.
And it's frustrating because you can do smart folders in Apple Notes, and you can do smart lists and reminders on iOS and iPadOS, but in addition to music, you can't do mail smart boxes. It's like this weird mashup. And I do wonder, as someone who uses the music app on the Mac all day, every day, it's iTunes, right? Like it just is. I do wonder if some of these features are easier for Apple to implement in something like notes and reminders that may be more modern under the hood, and that music, for these features to come, would need a much bigger set of work. I just don't know. It is frustrating though, and it's also surprising. Like, why is it taking this long to get a favorites playlist?
Exactly. It's I don't know. And you're right about the Mac. It really is just a skin on iTunes. Really, if you use it enough, you can see the bones there.
I have so many thoughts about Apple Music and Spotify that don't fit this episode, but the too long didn't read version is, I wish that somebody made a hybrid of Apple Music and Spotify, and it doesn't exist, and it will likely never exist. And yeah, it just makes me sad that Apple Music is so much better, as an app than Spotify, and that says a lot, I think, because music is not a great app, but it's still so much better than Spotify. And Spotify Discovery is so much better than Apple Music. It's kind of ridiculous. And what I want is something in the middle, and something in the middle doesn't exist. Yeah. So anyway, so that's the summary of. I should also mention, Stephen, 17.2. There's an quote unquote intelligent autofill feature for PDFs and other documents that have forms in them. So when the system detects that there's empty fields in a document, it'll offer to autofill those for you. And that's great so far. It detects an empty field for your first name, for your last name, for your address, your city, your zip code, okay? And everything worked pretty well in my tests. Except when I got to a form that wanted to know my height, and for whatever reason, iOS and iPadOS auto-filled 150 centimeters. That is, for example, to give you some context, I don't know how, but iOS and iPadOS thought that I was shorter than Sylvia.
Yeah, that's less than 5 feet tall, if I've done my conversion right.
And I am 183 centimeters tall. I have no idea where iOS took that number from. It's nowhere. I even have my height set in my health personal record.
That's what I was getting ready to ask. What does it say in health?
It's correct. It's all set correctly. So your mileage may vary with this feature. But we also, and for the other OSs, I want to mention, in watchOS, the ability to swipe between watch faces is back. And in tvOS, there's the redesigned TV app that now has a sidebar and integrates the ability to buy and rent TV shows and movies from the iTunes Store, because the iTunes Store apps are gone. So now you can, I'm happy to see that you can still buy TV shows, because I'm one of those people who still does it. And I still buy entire seasons of TV shows. But now you can do so inside the TV app. So one destination for all content.
That was I think I've mentioned this. That was a pick in a Ricky's a long time ago, that Apple would be getting rid of the separate iTunes stores. I'm trying to find it. Federico, you said this, annual Ricky's 2022. Apple stops using the iTunes Store app and moves store content into dedicated apps.
Always a year early. That is my curse.
Yeah.
iOS 17.2 Journal is out. I didn't write about it. Nilean wrote about it. Nilean has been journaling for over 8 years using Day One, and today we published a full review of Journal from the perspective of someone who's been journaling for several years at this point. And I think there's a lot of interesting things that Apple is doing with Journal. I'm not particularly a fan of the app itself and the UI and the fact that it's iPhone only, but I think the Suggestions API is very interesting. So what Apple is doing here, they have built an engine, which is the Journal Suggestions API, that uses on-device intelligence to detect different types of events in your life. When you visited a location, when you got in touch with a contact, when you listened to some music, when you took some pictures, you went to a specific restaurant, it can parse out all of these events from data on your phone. And it's not locked to the Journal app. Third-party journaling apps can get access to these suggestions using the equivalent of a system-wide photo picker. So when you're choosing a photo in Ivory or in Threads or in Discord, you're opening the system-wide photo picker. Apple has built the equivalent of a system-wide photo picker, but for these suggestions. And what's even greater, I think, is that these suggestions, they run in an out-of-process system, which again mirrors how the photo picker works. What I mean by this is that when you open the photo picker in, say, Discord is not able to see all your photos or to see all your videos. It just sees the items that you select. And the same is true for the Suggestions API for Journal. When you open Day One or Everlog is another third-party journaling app that is integrated with the journal suggestions, and you open the journal picker, those apps, they do not see all of your events until you select a suggestion. Now, that's very cool. But what I think is odd, and get ready because I have a big brain theory incoming in a second, is that the other way around is not true. Third-party apps cannot provide suggestions to journal, which is why if you use Spotify, for example, you will not see your Spotify activity in the journal suggestions. Developers cannot contribute their events to the journal suggestions API. It just, you will find Apple Music content, podcasts from the podcast app, photos from the camera, but it's just mostly default apps content. And I have a theory to share. Maybe this will be Ricky for the annual ones. We'll see. So, assuming that Apple in iOS 18, assuming that they release the ability for apps to say, hey, an event happened in here. I want to donate this event as a suggestions to journal. So, for example, let's say that in a third-party home automation app, something happened and I want to log it. Or maybe in Spotify, I listen to this podcast. Or maybe in Overcast, I finished listening to an episode. Right? An event happened. Now, there could be an API, right? Could be an API, third-party developers can now contribute events and suggestions to journal. But if I were Apple, and knowing Apple, you know what this kind of technology would also be useful for? Third-party automation triggers in shortcuts.
Ooh.
Yep.
Because if you think about it, it's the same idea. It's an event that happened in a third-party app. So maybe I want to journal about the fact that I finished listening to an episode of Cortex in Overcast. Or maybe I want to put together an automation when I finish listening to an episode of Cortex in Overcast. Like, if you think about it, it's the same sort of feature, but presented in two different ways. So if Apple ever does, this was my big brain theory, not Big Bang, big brain. If Apple ever does third-party app events, I think they will power both journal and shortcuts.
I love this theory. I mean, I really feel like we've been moving this direction for a long time with app intents and all the other things that are going on. And you're right, this structure that's out there with the photos picker and now these suggestions, they're built on the same kind of structure. And you could see it just going one step further to do what you're talking about.
And lastly, we also have a beta of 17.3. Already.
It never stops.
It never stops. So the first cool feature is the stolen device protection. This is basically, it's a new security feature that is in direct response to an excellent series of articles that Joanna Stern and Nicole Wynn did for the Wall Street Journal earlier this year about how the iPhone passcode could be used by thieves to after stealing your phone, to basically take control of your digital life because the passcode was controlling basically every single aspect of your Apple ID and iCloud account. And now with the stolen device protection feature, which is presented as a beta feature, you will basically need to have an additional step of biometric authentication. In addition to the passcode, you will need to use Touch ID or Face ID to access your passwords, to apply for a new Apple Card, to erase to basically reset a phone or turning off lost mode and all of that. And there's also a variant of this, which is biometrics plus an hour of waiting time to change your Apple ID password, add a new Face ID or Touch ID, and a bunch of additional settings. And I think this is a very cool thing to see from Apple. When these stories came out on the Wall Street Journal, I think a lot of people in the Apple community sort of rolled their eyes at this problem, be like, oh, sure. I mean, well, why would you get if somebody steals your passcode, it's your fault. But the thing is, people don't realize, a lot of nerds don't realize how easy it is to get sort of socially scammed in everyday situations.
Right.
Like you're at a bar and like there's a couple of people that want to steal your phone, and it's very easy to have someone behind you take a look at your phone, and these things happen. Go read that article. There's dozens of cases in which this has happened. And for Apple to be humble about it and recognize that this is a problem and implement what seems like a very well thought out feature, I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I think the way they've broken down what is required, or what requires biometrics, and then what requires biometrics plus an hour wait, I think that all makes a lot of sense. And hopefully the fact that this is coming, makes it out there, and people are less likely to want to even steal an iPhone in the first place because they know that it's even less useful than it may already be. It was shocking to me that story when it broke earlier this year, as was the response, which I think you outlined really well, that some people kind of rolled their eyes at it. But the fact that the passcode had so much power was a little bit surprising to me, because I hadn't really thought about it, and I've used Touch ID and or Face ID as long as it's been available. I think definitely this holiday season, as you're visiting family, like make sure they're using Touch ID or Face ID, whatever their phone has, because it's really going to up their security in a real way.
And lastly, Apple is doing emoji tapbacks, okay, but not in messages. They're doing it in collaborative playlists.
Which is
Apple
back
Music.
in 0.3, right? That was in the beta, then taken out. Now it's back.
In 0.3,
Yes.
back, and now it comes with the emoji tapback, emoji reaction menu that we all wanted to have from Apple, but in music instead of messages.
So close.
Well,
Come on.
maybe this means that we gotta come up with our new communication system based on collaborative playlists instead of iMessage. Maybe we should all put together a collaborative thread as a playlist, and we say the things we want to say by searching for a song that has that title, and then we react to it using emoji.
Sounds like a plan. It's a good plan,
Sounds like
Federico.
a good plan. Thank you.
This episode is brought to you by NetSuite. If you have a business, you might be able to relate to the fact that as your business gets to a certain size, cracks start to emerge. Things you used to do in a day are suddenly taking a week. You have too many manual processes, and you don't have one source of truth. It's never a good feeling when everything in your business is disjointed. You want clarity. You want one place where all the important stuff happens. The solution to untangling this disjointed feeling is NetSuite. NetSuite is a software company that has developed a cloud-based management platform to help you and your team deal with key business processes like enterprise resource planning, financials, CRM, e-commerce, inventory, and more. I know that if I have too many manual processes, getting work done feels hard, and I can't be as productive and successful as I'd like to be in my business. If you want to make sure cracks don't emerge in your business, you should know three numbers: 36,000, 25, and 1. There are 36,000 businesses that have upgraded to NetSuite by Oracle. NetSuite is the #1 cloud financial system, streamlining accounting, financial management, inventory, HR, and more. And 25 because NetSuite turns 25 years old this year, just like John. That's 25 years of helping businesses do more with less, close their books in days, not weeks, and drive down costs. And 1 because your business is one of a kind. So you can get a customized solution for all your KPIs in one efficient system with one source of truth. Manage risk, get reliable forecasts, and improve margins. Everything you need to grow, all in one place. Because having all the information you need in one place makes it so much easier to make decisions. I know as a business owner what a difference that can make and how much easier everything is when information is available. Right now, download NetSuite's popular KPI checklist designed to give you consistently excellent performance absolutely free at netsuite.com/connected. That's NETSUITE, netsuite.com/connected for your own KPI checklist to make sure your business continues to thrive. Our thanks to NetSuite for their support of the show. and Relay FM. Real quick, before I let y'all go, I want to hear about MacStories Selects. So y'all have done this. What year is this, Federico, for MacStories Selects?
Sixth year, is that right, John?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, so the sixth annual MacStories Selects. This is where you guys go through a bunch of the apps that you've covered that have come out, and you pick some winners in different categories. John, tell me about some of the winners this year.
Yeah, so we had 9 categories this year. We started a couple of years ago doing a Lifetime Achievement Award, which really is meant to recognize an app that's been around for a long time and really made a difference kind of in the world of apps. And this year we chose Pixelmator from the Pixelmator team because that's where Pixelmator got its start. Before Pixelmator Pro and before Photomator, there was just plain old Pixelmator, and it's still out there on iOS and iPadOS. And it really did kind of herald in a new era of image editors that were very different than what existed at the time from companies like Adobe, which were still at that time very much a Mac phenomenon. So it really brought that sort of image editing right onto the iPad and the iPhone. So that was our Lifetime Achievement Award. We had a Best New App, and maybe I'm going to let Federico talk about the Best New App because this is one that he wrote a really good story about. It's Orion by Lux.
Yeah, Orion is one of the many apps that this year lets you use your iPad as an external monitor for any connected device that supports USB video, and more specifically, I think Orion is very popular among people who want to use an iPad as a display for a console like a Steam Deck or a Nintendo Switch. And there's a handful of apps that do this year, and you can connect other types of devices like webcams or, like I did, a Game Boy camera, a DSLR. But in the case of Orion, I think it really shines for video games because it comes with, besides the excellent design, really cool attention to detail by the folks at Lux, but it comes with this native upscaling mode at 4K in real time with no latency that is made possible by on-device machine learning. And you can tell, especially if you're playing with a Nintendo Switch, sort of outputting the image to an iPad Pro, you can tell that the image quality is so much better than the default. When you're playing Zelda, for example, it's not even 1080p when the Switch is docked. It's somewhere like 900p or something. It's ever so slightly better than 720p. And to be able to see that image at 4K on especially on the 13-inch iPad Pro with mini LED, that is super sweet. So I think I wanted to pick that app in particular because that category is really something brand new this year that we were not expecting in June. And that was very cool to see.
Yeah, and we also named a bunch of other awards. We had the Best App Update, which was Sequel 2.0. This is a media tracking app from Roman Lefebvre, who has really done a fantastic job with Sequel this year. Sequel 2.0 came out in the spring and has been updated since then. And it's both designed incredibly well and has a fantastic feature set now that really took it kind of head and shoulders above where it was with the 1.0. Other awards were the Best New Feature, and this is one that I know Federico and I have been enjoying a lot this year, which is Cultured Code's Things Shortcut Support, because Cultured Code is really doing some interesting things with shortcuts here that really nobody else has done. And the one in particular is the ability to run a shortcut based on whatever task is selected in the app, whether you're on the iPhone, the iPad, or the Mac. It really opens up some interesting ways to do things. They also have effectively every single feature of things baked into shortcuts in a way that lets you do things like create template projects that fire off, on a schedule based on personal automations and that sort of thing. The Watch app of 2023, we picked Broadcasts by Steve Troughton-Smith.
Yeah.
This this
friend of the show. Yeah.
Yeah, and I assume that some of the people who are listening to the show right now are probably listening that way. That's usually how I listen to Connected on Wednesdays, is I go out for a walk and exercise and just take my Apple Watch with me and listen to the show on broadcast, because it's a rock solid watch app that has a great design, which we've been really happy with. What else, Federico? We had the best Mac app, which is MimeStream, which
good choice.
It feels like MimeStream has been around forever, but that's because it was in beta for a very long time. And it did actually go to a full 1.0 in the spring or early summer. And this has just been my favorite Mac app of 2023 by a long shot. It's such a good app because it's fully native, yet it takes advantage of all the special features you get with Gmail. So that's the best Mac app of 2023. And then we had Best Design, which is Mercury Weather, which is a fantastic weather app that's been around from Triple Glaze Studios for a couple of years now, but it really has done a great job this year refining that design and bringing all sorts of great interactions with the widgets and the new trip forecasts, which is a feature that I particularly love for when I'm traveling. And then we had a Reader's Choice Award, which was voted on by Club MacStories members, and that was Ivory. And I think that that's no surprise. I mean, Ivory is a fantastic app that we've been using all year long. It really felt like the last piece that made Mastodon feel more complete for me personally, and I feel like a lot of readers felt the same way on that one. Federico, why don't you take the final App of the Year award?
And the App of the Year was Widgetsmith by _David Smith. And I mean, we probably could have given out this award years ago with iOS 14, but the time was right, I think, in iOS 17. David has shown once again how he was able to reinvent Widgetsmith with interactivity on the home screen and the lock screen with standby. And just all the features that you now have in Widgetsmith are incredible. From music playback to viewing photos to combining multiple widgets in the same interactive UI. It's wild. The things you can do with Widgetsmith. And I mean, we're talking about an app with over 100 million App Store downloads, and so it's gotta be good, right? And we know that it's good. And I was really impressed by the interactive additions to Widgetsmith this year, and it's become one of those tools that, when I have an empty spot on my home screen and I'm like, I don't know what I want to do here, I'm just gonna open Widgetsmith and play around with things and see if I can come up with some ideas. It's this kind of playground for bringing functionality to your home screen. We love it, and it's the App of the Year.
All great choices. Congratulations to all the winners. I still want one of these trophies. If you have a spare one laying around,
you should
send it my way.
I actually have one sitting in my office still because one of them can't be delivered quite yet, but I'm not going to give it away. I'll give it to the people who asked me to hold on to it.
I just want to be awarded, I'm a millennial.
Make an app or something.
Okay, I'll get right on it.
make a visual, okay, listen to me. I'm going to give you an idea to make easy money, okay? Easy money. Stephen, hear me out.
Bitcoin.
No. Hear me out. Vision Pro is coming out, okay? You make a Vision OS app that lets people explore your office and your museum while wearing the Vision Pro.
There you go.
It's good. You just described a 3D YouTube video, but
PodCabin AR, I think we'll call it.
Vision Cap. We gotta brainstorm the name, but yes.
Yes, Vision Cabin HD.
Zach says 1, 2, 3 pod cabin.
Yes. There we go.
You can be in the pod cabin using pod cabin vision or something. Yeah.
I like Vision Cabin. It sounds like you go on the side of the mountain and you come back and you've changed your life.
Yeah, Vision Cabin sounds like the nerd version of a sweat lodge. To me.
Yeah, well, you come back with an AI pin if you do that, I think, Stephen.
Oh, yeah. You open the door, and it's a completely empty cabin with a lamp on the floor, Steve Jobs style, and then a pedestal with a humane pin. That's the only thing in here. If you want to find links to stuff we spoke about this week, including all the updates to Apple software, all the cool stuff going over on MacStories, head on over to the website, relay.fm/connected/480. A reminder, you have until Friday to get 20% off an annual membership to any Relay FM show at giverelay.com. I'd like to thank John for joining us. John, where can people find you on the internet?
They can find me on Mastodon, where you can just go to johnvorhees.macstories.net to find me there. And I'm at John Voorhees, both on Threads and Instagram.
Awesome. You can find Federico. He's John's boss, I guess, or something.
Not really.
Partners in crime.
Partners.
Which
crime.
one of you is Batman and which one is Robin?
I'm Robin.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you can find Federico at macstories.net. And of course, he is also on Mastodon and Threads in 15 hours. It's going to be great.
Yes.
You can find my writing over at 512pixels.net, and I co-host Mac Power Users each and every Sunday here on Relay FM. I'd like to thank our sponsors this week. They are Squarespace, ZocDoc, and NetSuite. And until next time, say goodbye.
Arrivederci.
See you later.
Bye, y'all.